So next up is the compound interest formula. Compound interest is calculated by the formula A of t equals capital P times 1 plus little r divided by little n, close your parentheses, all to the power of n times t. In this formula, A of t is the account balance, or in other words, how much money you have by the end of this time period. Capital P is what we call the principal. The principal is our starting amount, very similar to the formula we looked at earlier, where A was our initial or starting amount, P is our leading coefficient, and principal is how much money we start with. It might be called your deposit or investment. R is our annual percentage rate or interest rate. You may see it on your bank accounts or your credit card statements as the APR. N is the number of times compounded per year, and we'll go over what compounded means here in a second. T is your time, and in this formula, since we're dealing with interest rates, it's always going to be in years. So compounding, that term refers to the interest earned not only on the original value or the principal that you put in, but also accumulated value of the account. In other words, if I put money in January and I earn some interest on that money, then in February, I'm going to earn interest again, not only on my initial deposit, but also on the interest I earned in January. That's why it's compounding. You're earning interest on interest. So if it's only compounded annually, that just means once a year. So it's really not being compounded at all. It could be compounded quarterly, which means our N would equal 4. Monthly would be 12, weekly 52, and daily 365, since there are 365 days in the year. So let's look at example D. At birth, Maria's parents set aside $8,000 in an account designated to pay for her college education. Well, how much will Maria's account be worth by her 18th birthday if the interest rate was 8.4% compounded monthly? Well, looking back at our compound interest formula, let's see if we have values for most of these variables. In order to find the answer, we should have values for all of these variables except for one. Well, the principal is our starting amount. That was the $8,000 deposit. Our rate was 8.4%. When we're working with it, though, let's write it as a decimal. Don't forget, it's 2 decimal places to the left. And then our N is the number of times it was compounded per year, and it was compounded monthly. So our N is 12. And they started at Maria's birth, but they want to take it out on her 18th birthday. So that means 18 years later. The account balance is what we're looking for. How much is the account worth? So let's plug them in. So we start with $8,000, and we have 1, which is 100% of the original, plus our interest rate. This is our annual interest rate. But notice we're dividing it by 12 because we do not get the entire 8.4% every month. That is our annual percentage rate. So we divide it by 12. So we get a portion of it every month. And then in our numerator, we have our N of 12 times 18. So it's in there for 18 years, but it gets interest 12 times every year, which is why we multiply the N times the T. Now, if you're putting this in a calculator, be careful. You would type in 8,000, parentheses, 1 plus 0.084 divided by 12, close parenthesis. Too many people put the exponent or the hat, and then they would do maybe 12 times with an asterisk and then 18, and you'll get the answer wrong. The reason is order of operations. Exponents come before multiplication. Your calculator will only recognize 12 as being the exponent, and then it's going to multiply that entire thing by 18 later. So this is where we need to be sure and put parentheses around our entire exponent, or multiply the exponent first and then put it into your calculator. So when we put everything in, we will get approximately $36,095.71. So we can say Maria's account will be worth about $36,095.71 on her 18th birthday.